Young Climber returns, and we are still profiling the lives of the young people in the Kingdom of Eswatini. They are definitely taking the country by a storm and influencing young people in their respective professions and fields. Today, we are joined by Apostle Neliswa, who has definitely influenced great people in the Kingdom of Eswatini. And not just that, he is also a TV presenter. I am sure you've seen him on the Eswatini TV screens, and of course, an entrepreneur. He joins us to unpack his journey and his life, and we find out more interesting things about him. Apostle, welcome to Young Climber.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for welcoming me here.
You know, this one is the most interesting one, and I think one that we have been looking forward to, because we hardly see young pastors in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Can you tell us what influenced your journey, taking it back, and how you became the minister of the gospel?
All right, thank you so much for that question. Well, that's an interesting question, and also let me say it's a hard question to answer.
Of course.
Most particularly because when you talk about the journey of a minister, it is something that has to involve a time whereby you actually discover that you are called by God.
Oh, yes.
And I always tell people that I discovered that God has called me. You know, I usually say I discovered that God started speaking to me at a very tender age. I literally remember during the days of my preschool days, whereby I could be telling my mother, I could be telling the people at home that I hear voices. It's like there's a voice that speaks to me and tells me what to do and what not to do. And people never really got to understand what is it really that I was talking about. So now I would tell my friends, and I ended up thinking that I'm crazy or something.
Yes, of course.
But then now, when I just kept on, you know, having this personal communion with this voice, I actually saw that it is actually leading me to the better things and the good things of this life, because it literally could tell me, this is what you need to do, this is what you don't have to do. And that is when now later in the years I've actually discovered that that was just the voice of God, you know, telling me that I'll be different. Because some of the things that I'm actually doing now as a man of God, it's some of the things that I was doing back then when I was still a child. You know, I could be playing church, I could be playing pastor, putting a stick in a small avocado, pretending that's a microphone, and preaching to people, praying for people. It was really interesting. So it has been a journey. That's when I can say I actually discovered that, you know, I've been called by God into ministry. But now, growing up, I've always grown up in church. You know, there were times whereby I really didn't want to go to church and all that, but my mom would just be pushing me to church every time. So I really thank her for that. And now, so when I entered into church, I started serving in church at a very young age. And I'm one person that has actually served in every department of church. So I've been ministering in a lot of departments. Before I actually started ministering the word, I've been ministering for years upon years in the praise and worship team. I've done ushering. I've been in every leadership structure, every committee. I've just been everywhere. So now, coming to the part whereby now I was officially ordained as a minister of the gospel, or rather a minister of the word, a man of God. I was ordained in 2021. Just a few months back, in the month of May, I was celebrating 3 years anniversary on the pulpit officially as an ordained man of God. So that's when now the church that I'm in right now, I joined it actually in 2016. That's where the whole journey of my ministering life really took, you know, I can say began, or let me say it took another level. It took another level altogether. So yeah, basically that's what I can say.
All right, and now we speak about, you know, the ambitious move or the brave move of having a branch of a church, you know, because it's one thing to be a pastor, but you have people that fully depend on you now. You are within a branch, which is of course ECG, the Jesus Nation Church. Can you talk about what inspired, you know, opening a church branch? That bold move that you made, what inspired that?
All right, for the longest time in the church that I'm in right now, we started in 2016, and the main branch has always been in Manzini. So now I noted growing up in that church that many other branches were opened all over the country, but not in the capital. Which I saw as an error. How can we have branches of our church all over the nation when we do not have a branch in the capital? So now that is when I took the initiative to actually be part of the 3 people that pioneered a home cell in the capital, whereby we were meeting just for services midweek, which is basically just prayer and Bible study. So now we started that home cell in the year 2017, and we've been pushing. It's been down and out, all this and that. But then when we eventually launched the branch, it was actually in the year 2022, whereby we launched the branch here in Mbabane, and it has been really a brilliant journey. So it was a lot of reasons that inspired that. We had to fix the error. Church needs to start in the capital.
Of course.
We cannot have such a big church and then it is not in the capital.
Yeah.
So that was the main thing. And also looking at the fact that we were traveling for years to Manzini every midweek service, every Sunday. So
Yeah.
it was a lot costly for people. So I just said, you know what, there are souls in Mbabane that need Jesus, and you can preach to them right from the capital.
All right. And now, opening a branch comes with so many things, and of course, challenges I could speak of. You did say that you migrated from another branch into opening this one in Mbabane, and it had to be led by you. What are some of the challenges that you faced opening a new branch and, convincing people that this is where you need to be?
All right, I think the highlights of challenges that I've faced, as a young minister is actually the fact of being young.
Yes.
Because you see, when you are young, people have this thing of taking you for granted. No matter how much they can hear that really God is using you, God is speaking, but there's still that thing to say, this is just but a young man. He's not even married. This and that. So that has been the main challenge when it comes to ministry, whereby you find that sometimes you are called in a series of meetings. I'm talking about serious committees, executive committees, national committees, even international committees, where they are just grilling you as a minister to say, young man, are you really sure about what you are doing?
Yeah.
How are you doing this? So the main challenge that I've faced is the issue of being young. But I also thank God that I've been able to stand above that challenge of being taken for granted, because it takes a lot of internal personal motivation,
of course,
personal drive to say this is what God is telling me to do, so I should really push it and make sure that it happens. And also looking at the brighter purpose, or rather the greater purpose that it brings, because there is always the greater purpose, there is always the real motive why you're doing what you're doing. So that's what really kept me above the challenges of just being looked down upon. And of course a lot of other challenges. When you're starting something new, people are coming, people are not coming, there's finances involved, there's leadership involved, there's just a lot that's involved. So we've really done well.
And I'm sure you've had, memorable experiences leading the church, and some that were affirming you that this is where I belong. Can you share some of your memorable experiences in the church?
All right, I think one of the most memorable of experiences that I've had, it was actually the time whereby I was first ordained, as a man of God into this whole thing, because it is something that I've been praying for, it is something that I've been wishing for. So, and the funny thing that happened with my story is that I was actually ordained 3 times within a space of 6 months. So that is the highlights of actually that really made me crazy. I would actually talk about this every time on the pulpit, that I'm the only minister that has been ordained 3 times within a space of 6 months, and by different servants of God right within the ministry. And of course the last one that did the last 2 being the president and founder and my spiritual father, which was like the moment that I'd always been waiting for, because the first ordination, it was by my national pastor when I was put into the pastoral. So I could say that was a highlight of my ministry life.
And now, we briefly spoke about how you have 3 roles that you are balancing yourself in between. How do you manage to balance the role of being, an apostle in the church, a TV presenter, and of course an entrepreneur?
I think it goes to priorities. I think it goes to priorities basically, because basically as a man of God, that's like a what can I say, I'm in full-time ministry, and I'm an apostle wherever I am, wherever I go. I'm a man of God wherever I go, wherever I am. I represent Christ wherever I am, wherever I go. So prioritizing that, it also goes into everything else that I'm doing, because I'm sure there are other presenters out there, but I'm a different presenter. I'm not just a presenter, I'm also a man of God. And also I think one of the good things that has actually helped me to balance the whole thing is that as a man of God, leading a branch, leading people, automatically you're already a face of the church.
Of course.
You're already leading the church. You're somebody that people look up to. So now switching into television, they tell you that you are the face of TV. You can't just do anything anyhow. So pretty much to me it was like, I'm used to this now, because I've always been in the forefront. Talk about praise and worship team, talk about everything that I've been doing in church, I've always been in the forefront. So for me to be before the camera now, the only problem was that, now there are no people. I need to speak to lenses. So that was the problem. And now coming to being an entrepreneur, of course, being a man of God, it's the calling, it's the purpose. But of course, all of that, there's money involved. You need money to support your passion. You need money to support your purpose. You need money to lead your life. As much as I'm a man of God, as much as I'm a presenter. I still have a family to take care of. There's still a mother. There's still parents that are looking up to me, brothers, sisters that I need to help. So I really need to do something with the time that I have outside of all that to make sure that I'm raising money, I'm hustling, I'm doing all I have to do to make sure that financially I'm also fit.
And now, can you tell us about your approach to leadership and, of course, motivating others? I think for you, it comes really easy because, I mean, you get the chance to stand in front of the church and you always have to have some sort of motivation, even though you are not motivated. What is your approach to leadership and, of course, motivating others?
You know, my approach to leadership is solely based on, you know, when you lead people, you don't have to be bossing people around.
Of course.
I believe that leadership is all about influencing people to actually do what they have to do themselves. Such that at the end of the day, when they are looking at the impact and the results of what they've done, they can actually say, we did this ourselves.
Yes.
So that's the highlight of my leadership. So now that speaks to a lot of kind of leadership styles, but most importantly, because I'm in a church environment, the leadership style that we really base everything on is servant leadership, whereby we encourage people to have the spirit of servanthood, you know, because we understand that in servanthood, there's a lot of, you know, values that are there, like humility, which are all characters that you need actually to really get out there and be whatsoever that you believe God wants you to be. So servant leadership is the one. Of course, there's a lot of other things. You need to be charismatic as a leader. There's a whole lot more. But servant leadership, that's the way to go, because it teaches the people to stand for themselves and be able to be proud of themselves, to say we did this ourselves, when you're just influencing them in the front line.
And of course, you know, there's one interesting question that I have for you. A church is almost like a diverse group. You have young people, you have old people. And you being a young person, you still need to preach to the older crowd. How do you make sure that you prepare for your sermons and your teachings? And what are some of the things that happen around you that influence those sermons and teachings?
All right. Okay, when it comes to the way that I prepare for my sermons, it is pretty much basic, because particularly when you're talking about ministration, you solely need to depend on the voice of God. You solely need to depend on the leading of the Spirit. So you find that, let's say maybe, for example, this coming Sunday, what happens, the Spirit of the Lord will always be depositing something in your spirit to say, this is, I'm not the kind of preacher that believes in like preparing just before the service. This is a lifestyle. This is something that you need to live. You need to be in the Word. You need to be in the Spirit. You need to always be in prayer. You need to have it deep inside of you, such that you find that at the time when the Holy Spirit is giving you that inspiration to say, this is what I want you to deliver to my children, already you have wells of deep knowledge inside of you that you'll just be speaking out. I'm not the kind of preacher that goes points, writes a whole paragraph down so that I can go through it. I just know what is it that God has said I should minister to God's people, and when I get to the pulpit, I start spitting fire. If ever I have to do some notes, it's just a few pointers, but I'm not really that kind of a minister. I speak from the depth of my heart, because I believe that whatsoever I need to minister to the people, it is already full inside, deposited in my heart. I need to speak it out and give it out to the people. All
right. And you know, this one is a bit controversial, but what are some of the most rewarding what's the most rewarding aspect of being a pastor? With me, I think it is impact. It is impact. There is nothing that fulfills my heart, that makes me so happy, than seeing the life of somebody change. If there's one rewarding thing to me, whenever I see somebody's life changing, whenever I see whatsoever maybe I prayed for that believer, maybe it's a healing miracle or deliverance, or it's a prophecy that has come to pass in the life of that person, there is nothing that excites me more than that. So for me, if I see somebody's life impacted, if I see somebody's life change, that's like, well done. I'm happy. I can even jump around, I can dance around, I can do anything. All righty, we're still speaking to Apostle Neliswa. When we return, we talk about more spirituality and of course your upcoming book, but that is only when we return. Welcome back. Today we are coming to you from farm to table. This is a place where you can get to enjoy an all-day breakfast. And if you're someone who loves a quiet space, you want to hold a meeting, this is definitely the best place. And they have the absolute best coffee. But we are still unpacking the journey of Apostle Neliswa. He tells us now about his upcoming book, The Wisdom of Advancement. First, we'll speak to the title and what are some of the key principles that we can expect in this upcoming book.
All right, so now when we talk about the wisdom of advancement, it's a book that actually is just a guideline of how people can actually progress in any area of their lives using God's principles.
Yeah.
You know, so what are some of the highlighted, principles that I'm writing about in this book? There's something that I write about, they're called the wisdom of sharing. The wisdom of sharing, whereby we are actually talking about you manifesting yourself to the world, manifesting your purpose, manifesting your goals out there in the world, whereby you need to have wisdom in the way that you bring out what is inside of you to the people, because it's your actions that actually make people take you in a certain way or perceive you in a certain way. So the wisdom of sharing, it's all about how can you present yourself out there on what you have or what you want to bring out there in a way that can help you to progress in life. Because whenever we want to be productive, whether as a presenter you want to be productive, or as a farmer, or whatever it is that you're doing, you want to be productive in a way that is going to help you achieve your goals and be successful in what you're doing.
Of course.
So there are principles like that. Wisdom of sharing. There's also the wisdom of the Word of God, of course, because as I said, it's a book that is entirely based on how can you progress in this life using God's principles. There's a lot of principles there, but I'll talk about that more another time.
Can we also talk about, your education, which we haven't tapped into? How did your education at Gapboys and, of course, the University of Eswatini shape your current path? You did say to be a minister of the gospel, you have to be God ordained. But, there are some things that can, of course, influence your path. And how did your education influence your path?
I think my education influenced my past in such a tremendous way, because coming from a school like Gapboys High School, it's a school that has always been known for academic excellence.
Yes.
So now behind the story of academic excellence, there's a lot that was happening behind the scenes, whereby we're being pushed and encouraged in hard work, and not just hard work, but actually being excellent in everything that you are doing. They would tell you that in this school we teach, we preach, and we beat. So now that was all enough encouragement to make sure that it pushes you to the right direction. So if there's one takeaway that I can talk about from Gapboys High School, it's excellence. Whatsoever that you're doing, make sure that you do it with excellence. Make sure that you know that you are the best and there's nobody else that follows up after that. You are just the best. So I think that's one of the things that really pushes me each and every time maybe I'm facing hardships and challenges, to know that I'm coming out from the best school. I was taught to push. I was taught to thrive. I was taught to be excellent. So I try to be excellent in everything that I'm doing.
And then now, very interesting fact about you as well is that you studied agricultural economics and agribusiness management. Where does it feature in your life, and what drew you to study this specific field?
All right. Honestly speaking, there's a lot that I could have done after school.
Yes.
But then after much consideration and a lot of thinking and a lot of consultation, I decided to go down the route of economics and agriculture, particularly because I was looking at the economy of this country.
Oh, yes.
We are a traditional economy. We're all about agriculture. We are all about people in this country. It's all about agriculture. It's all about goods and services. It's all about working. So now I thought that if I could take a degree in agricultural economic, agribusiness and management, it could really assist in actually bring out a different approach in the way that we do our agriculture and the way that we do business, basically, so that you can really do all that you aspire to be. So basically it's something like that. And
now you're about to continue your journey in education. Can you tell us about your current studies in leadership and how you plan for a master's degree?
All right, so now when it comes to right now, what I'm doing, there's a leadership thing that I'm doing with one college in the United States of America. So it's an online thing that I'm doing. And also very soon, in a few months from now, a couple of months from now, I think I'll be starting my master's. But for now, I'm still going through the application phases and everything. So there are two options that I'm going for. It's either I do master's in business administration or I do my master's in agribusiness.
Okay.
Because even my entrepreneurship and all that I'm doing, it's agriculture based, all the businesses that I'm doing. So there are some things that I've seen that I need to add more knowledge on so that it helps me to become better at what I do.
Apostle, we also tap into your TV presenter profession. Can you talk about your journey at Eswatini TV and of course, presenting Buhle Betfu and how you incorporate your other life, your daily life into Buhle Betfu?
All right, I think what Buhle Betfu has brought into my life, honestly, it's one thing that I've always desired: traveling.
Yes.
Traveling.
Yeah.
I'm one person that is so patriotic. I love my country so much. So I think Buhle Betfu just helped me to bring out that out of me, because I'm one person that has traveled almost every corner of this country, profiling a lot of different places that are of pride to us as Eswatini, as far as tourism especially is concerned, and all these wonderful events that we host in this country. So my journey at Buhle Betfu has been really brilliant, because now I know my country better. Now I'm in this country with pride, because I'm one of the people that they rely on to make sure that we market our country out there, not just locally, but also to the international market. So in that part of things, it has really helped me so very well, especially in the traveling part of it. I love traveling, I'm telling you.
And let's talk about your role evolving in the next couple of years. What are you hoping to be in the next couple of years, and how do you see your position influencing our community or the Kingdom of Eswatini greatly?
In the next coming years, I think all that we are talking about, all that we are doing, all that we are focused on is growth.
Yes.
There is nothing that beats growth in this life. In whatsoever you are doing, you cannot really reach a stage or a level whereby you can say, now I have arrived, or anything like that. If there's one thing that I'm doing, I want to grow in every aspect of my life. As a man of God, I should grow. I should see a difference from what I am now in what I'll be 2 years from now. When you talk about what I'm doing in media, I've always been passionate about media. There needs to be growth, like extensive growth. Talk about entrepreneurship. I need to see my business growing. I need to see every venture that I'm into growing. So it's all about growth and attracting impact and all at a greater dimension than where we're at right now. And
before we wrap up, what advice would you give to young people looking to make a difference in their communities, especially the idea of being a young pastor? Maybe there's someone lona 12 lo bugela this specific episode and but in them. What advice would you give that young person?
All right, what I'd advise young ministers like myself, upcoming ministers and all that, is that there's just one thing that you need to focus on the most, far above all, your God.
Yes.
Focus on your God. Focus on your God. And those are just two things already that I've said there. There's God and then there's focus. There is nothing that beats focus.
Yeah.
As a young person, you need to be focused. Whatsoever that you want to achieve, whatsoever that you're trying to do, whatsoever impact that you're trying to make, focus. Because there are many voices that will be speaking. It's not just the voice of your dream, of your passion, or of your... There's a lot that will be speaking, and most of these voices, they'll be speaking to discourage you. They'll be speaking against what you're doing. So as long as you're focused in what you want to achieve, focus on the voice of God, focus on the mission, focus on the purpose, there's nothing that is going to deter you from your path.
And there's so many things that you could be doing. I know praying is one of them to stay motivated. But how do you make sure you stay inspired and of course maintain your passion for all your diverse positions, being a pastor, being an entrepreneur, being a TV presenter? I'm sure Nakona, there are many challenges that you face in all of these respective fields, but how do you make sure that you stay on top of things?
All right, for that one, I think it's very easy, because I always look out. It's important as a young person to be visionary. It's important as a young person to be visionary, because when you look at what you can do using what you have now in the next few years, it really encourages you to say, if I give up now, then what is going to happen 2 years from now? So it's all about impact that really drives me. When I see the impact that I've done, maybe and what people are talking about, to say this is how you influencing us. This is how you are touching our lives in the message that you preach.
Yeah.
I meet some people in town. They're like, we know you from TV. Are you the Book Club presenter? I'm like, oh
Yes,
yeah, this is me.
yeah.
So that's impact. So that's what really what drives me, and what really encourages me whenever I feel down. When I look at the impact that has happened in the ministry, when I look at the impact that TV is doing just by my face being there, people relating with you when they meet you, and also the impact that is happening in the business side of things, because there we talk about now giving people even employment opportunities. That's impact. When they speak how now they are able to feed their families and this and that because of the business initiative that you're into, the impact really drives you to say, even if I don't want to wake up, I feel like, you know what, let me just wake up, because as I'm waking up, I'm going to make impact.
A big thank you to you, Neliswa. As we wrap up, can you tell us about the future of the church? Where do you want to see the church in the next couple of years? And of course, how do you hope Emaswati can assist you also as a young minister?
All right, where I see the church in the next 2 years, as I said, that we are looking at growth. We're just doing our strategic plan, just a few days back, whereby we're projecting that in the next 2 years, we want to have a really big congregation, because right now we are around 200 members. So now, trust me, after 2 years, we are looking at something 800 going up in our membership, and also improving all the departments that are there in church. Because what I've discovered about the church is not just about the ministry of the word. It's not just about the ministry of the word. Recently, there are charity drives that we're starting. There are counseling departments that I'm building. There is a lot of departments in the church. There are talents, there are gifts, there are skills that need to be groomed right inside the church. You want to take the church to another dimension. It should also have its own media crew. It should have its own presenters, so that we take this gospel out there in the world. It's just a lot that we need to do, but all of it is just encompassed in growth.
A big thank you to you, Apostle. We hope that everything, will come into fruition. We'd like to see TV presenters, of course, from the church, and, all the best for the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And Babugile Makaya, that was Apostle Neliswa Makanya. He speaks about leadership, impact, and of course, spirituality. Please do remember to visit Farm to Table. They do open at Saturday from 7:30 all the way to 5. And of course, on Sunday from 7:30 all the way to 1:30 to enjoy an all-day breakfast. But apart from that, we are signing and bowing out. Till next week, Tuesday, it is good night.